What's next for the Suicide Squad? Welcome to our complete story series where we take your favorite trade paperbacks and single issues of comics and we break them down into digestible bites to help you understand and keep track of the storylines. Then we read them dramatically back to you involving epic music and weird voices. All alterations of the panel text and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. Now, at the end of our last story, the squad was sent to an underwater Russian prison to get a hold of a game-changing cosmic item, which they learned was General Zod. He managed to break out of the Black Vault, which was containing him, and he literally blew Boomerang away. But with the help of their contact Hack, the squad managed to push Zod back into the Black Vault and return to Belle Reve with it. As Amanda stares at the vault, she asks Rick Flag if he's really in there, and he tells her that he is. Her Suicide Squad brought the equivalent to a superpowered nuke back to American soil. Amanda then says that she overheard on the comm someone mention the Phantom Zone, and to her understanding, Superman was the only person who had access to that dimension. One of the scientists says that they think that this Black Vault is an offshoot of that. But as Rick tries to tell Amanda that it's a bad idea to weaponize Zod, Harley asks if anyone can hear that. As Harley gets closer to the sphere, she tells everyone that it's singing to them, and it's horrifying! Deadshot runs over to grab Harley to get her away, and Harley grabs his arm and twists it! But before he can fall, Harley grabs him and slams him onto the ground. She tells him that there's no flirting in the workplace, and the gun pops out of Deadshot's wrist, and he tells her, "Flirt with this." Suddenly, both of them feel a shock in their heads and they begin to yell out. As they get up, Amanda tells them that she would like to remind them that they are not here to get cozy with one another. They are her prisoners, and they will obey her orders. Amanda then tells the scientist to get to work on getting Zod out of there and subduing him. But as Harley is taken away, she says that they can't control what's in there. That thing doesn't belong here. Meanwhile, June Moon sits in her cell painting, telling Croc that it's hard to keep deadlines when you're locked in prison, and blacked out for extended periods of time with no memory of what happened. June then asks Croc what are some of the things that he likes to do, and he rips through a piece of meat telling her, "Eat things." She goes on stating that she loves to eat good food. She also loves killer jambalaya, but she does have one question to ask. Back in Russia when Zod was attacking, Croc protected her. Why? Croc thinks about it for a moment and then he tells her, "I want to eat everyone, but I don't want to eat you." He then goes back to eating. A little while later, Rick, Katana, and Harcourt watch as the scientists begin to extract Zod out of the vault. Rick says that this is all madness, but Harcourt tells him that whatever he may think, he may have just won them a world war that was barely beyond its infancy. However, she would like to know more about the girl Hack who broke them out of the prison. Meanwhile, over in the cafeteria, that very girl Hack begins to hear her food when her spoon suddenly begins to twist and bend. A voice then tells her that it's all in her head. He's in her head! And so is all this. Back in the control room, Rick tells Amanda that she can't seriously be thinking of using Zod for Task Force X, and Amanda says that she will protect the people of this country from both threats global and cosmic, and he will just be a considerable weapon in her arsenal. Rick tells her that he's lost soldiers in the field. Boomerang was slaughtered, so before she can use Zod, he'll kill her, and he draws his gun and he fires. Rick watches as the bullet goes through Amanda's head and then she falls to the ground. But as soon as he blinks, he sees Katana standing in the way, blocking the shot. He says he doesn't understand. He just saw her dead. And Harcourt sees two of the scientists down below fighting, stating that there is something very wrong here. The scientists are trying to kill, Amanda shouts as she punches Rick. She struggles with Rick to take his gun, but as she does, she headbutts Rick. She then asks who wants a piece of her. Who wants to find out who the biggest monster in Belle Reve really is? And suddenly, the lights go out. Back in the cafeteria, Hack heads over to the table where Harley and the rest of them are sitting and says that she just had the weirdest thing happen to her. However, before she can make it to the table, the guards tase her, stating that inmate Hack will be interrogated per Harcourt's orders. No one will attempt to intervene. Deadshot looks at him, telling him, "Yeah, we'll try to restrain our heroic tendencies." Meanwhile, back in the control room, the lights turn back on and everyone notices that Rick Flag is gone. Amanda says that if the power just went out, the prisoners may not be incarcerated any longer. She then tells Katana to go up and check on them, but Katana says, the song, the Black Vault, it says to kill. She jumps down to the lower level and begins to slice off heads. Elsewhere, June Moon says that she can't help but notice the door to her cell is open, and then Croc appears behind her. Before she can even ask what he's doing, June is lifted up and Croc bites into her neck, stating, "Eat you." A little while later, Hack begins to wake up, seeing herself strapped to a table. The voice from before tells her that this is the room where they put the bomb into you. And then she begins to see a figure of a dead Captain Boomerang. As the machine starts to turn on to insert the bomb, the dead Boomerang says that he would rather not see something happen to her head. And suddenly, his body explodes, and the locks on the table are disengaged. However, back over at Harley Quinn's cell, she begins clipping off the dyed parts of her hair and she begins to wash away the makeup. She grabs a pair of glasses and says that she's working on a hypothesis as to what's going on here. She opens the door to the main prison room and she says that the prisoners are all going insane, and the effect is having the opposite on her. It's making her sane again. And just as she begins to think of the irony of the situation, Katana appears behind her, ready to swing her sword. Just as Harley notices Katana, she begins to run as another scientist begins to chase her as well. He holds out his taser, but before he can fire, Katana slices off his hands. She then gets ready to cut down on Harley, but using the severed hands, Harley fires the taser, shocking Katana. Harley then runs over to the comm system, asking if anyone is there. She's pretty sure that the people here are starting to go crazy the moment that they brought the Black Vault in and pulled Zod out. Amanda responds, stating that she sounds different. Is this not affecting her? And Harley tells her that it is affecting her. Trust her on that. Amanda says that she needs her help. The computer is misbehaving and it's shining artificial yellow sunlight on Zod. She needs Harley to get to the lab and shut that down because Zod was weak before. He's about to become a superpowered individual. Harley tells herself that any sane person would just run, but given her second chance on sanity, she can't really blow it. The doorway to the control room is filled with inmates all fighting each other, two of which are Deadshot and El Diablo, who both spot Harley. El Diablo fires a blast towards Harley, but as she ducks, the blast ends up hitting Deadshot instead. Harley then tricks El Diablo, causing him to fire upwards into the sprinkler system. The water begins to pour down, putting out the fire, and Harley jumps off Deadshot, telling him she would never have thought of this plan if she wasn't sane. Just as she's clear of Deadshot, she fires the taser into the water that everyone is stepping in and electrocutes the entire floor. As all of the inmates fall down, she tells everyone to have a sweet, violent dream. Elsewhere, Hack begins to feel the effects of Zod, and she tells herself that this is like a virus inside of her. As she purges her mind of the virus, she realizes that Zod isn't the one doing this. It's something inside of her head. It must be him. Mechanical arms reach out, crashing down towards Hack, and as she jumps away, a second arm grabs her. Back with Harley, she continues her way to the control room, cutting through the squad cells. As she climbs out of the air duct, she sees blood all over the place, and she turns the corner to see it. Croc and June lay under a blanket holding each other, and Harley says that what's going on must make people give in to their base urges. And they both got what they wanted. Amanda shouts that they don't have time for this. Zod could awaken at any second. So Harley leans down to June and says that she's sorry, but she's pretty sure that this is the quickest way to get to the Enchantress. She shocks June and Croc jumps up, slamming Harley into the wall, shouting, "She loved me and you fried her!" Meanwhile, over with Hack, she shouts, "Tell me what you want!" A projection of Boomerang then tells her, "I want to come back like a boomerang!" Over at the squad cells, Croc holds Harley up, shouting that he will eat her face! And Rick runs in, shooting at Croc. June starts to wake up asking how, and Rick says that he stabbed himself in the leg to act as a distraction from that murderous urge. But he won't lose any more of his people. Croc pins Rick down, telling him that he has a bulletproof hide. What is he going to do? Rick holds his gun up to Croc's nose and says, "I'm pretty sure your insides aren't bulletproof." And June shouts that she'll do it, she'll give her to them. Just as Croc throws Rick down in the water, Enchantress's voice asks, "Who summoned the blood-spawn majesty of the Enchantress?" Croc looks up, stating, "You're not June." Enchantress then shouts, "Do not approach me, beast. I encase you in ice, you vile, vomit-inducing horror." Harley then says, "What's wrong with it's not you, it's me thing?" And then she tells Enchantress that she really needs her help over here in the lab. Enchantress asks, "Why in hell's cauldron would I help you?" Rick holds up the bomb detonator, stating that this is still the Suicide Squad. And I got my thumb on the button. Elsewhere, Boomerang's projection yells at Hack, telling her that he doesn't want to be digital. He wants to be real, like a big sausage boomerang. There was a big flash back at the prison. The next thing I knew, I was in these walls. And then he realizes something. This all makes perfect sense. He's God, isn't he? Hack tells him no, definitely not, but think of himself as a digital version of indigestion after really hot curry. I love curry! You're missing the point. Over the comms, Harley tells Hack that if she's not crazy right now, she could really use her help. And Hack tells her sure, but Katana and the others kind of just found her. Boomerang starts to control the mechanical arm, stating that he'll protect her as long as she brings him back. Back with Harley, Deadshot, and the others, they begin to make their way towards them. And Rick tells Harley to go on ahead. He'll cover them. Harley begins to tell Rick that if they want to make it out of here, but then a block of ice containing Croc zooms off, and Enchantress says, "Oh, human feelings, be gone!" Now join me on my black magic monster ice slide. The block of ice crashes through the walls into the lab, and Amanda shouts to hurry and help her push Zod back into the vault. Enchantress asks how is it that she is counteracting the maddening effects. Rick stabbed himself, and Harley says that not all wounds are visible. Every psychotherapist knows that. Just as Amanda says damn you, another voice tells her, yes, you are damned, for Zod awakens. Zod punches through his restraints and tosses Croc aside. Harcourt tells Enchantress to do, I don't know, something magic. So Enchantress begins to cast, and Zod shouts that she won't be able to if I remove the air from your lungs. Zod learns. Zod then grabs Amanda Waller and tells her that soon the Phantom Zone army will follow. There's nothing that their graphic designers can do to stop it. Harley launches, stating, what the hell? Who can stay sane in a world like this? And she grabs 2 electrical cables and shocks Zod from behind. Hack tells everyone not to worry, she's downloading her own personal virus into him. And Boomerang tells Zod that he's like Superman's dirty uncle or whatever, right? Well, do you remember me? As the dust begins to settle, Boomerang appears in the flesh, shouting, look, I got my actual legs back! Captain Bloody Boomerang is in full effect! The red sunlight generators begin to kick back on, and Harley says that she's beginning to feel strange. Boomerang looks at Zod's still body and tells him, that's right, he took me down all by himself. So then he throws a boomerang at Zod's chest, which bounces off. Zod's body begins to tip, and it falls onto Boomerang. Enchantress says that she can see the Australian's legs kick out in wild desperation. Amusing. A little while later, Amanda goes to visit Harley, telling her that she saved them all. But as Harley sits there, she says that she's really glad, because all of the people in this prison, they drove her mad! And then she sits there, laughing. As time passes, Rick stands out in front of Belle Reve as it's snowing, and he tells everyone that their new arrival is about to show up. Let's see if they can beat last month's fatalities record this time. A helicopter lands, and out steps a woman in a straitjacket. Rick tells the jailers to meet Dr. Caitlin Snow, aka Killer Frost, a heat vampire that will suck the life force out of you and transmute it into ice projections. Razor sharp ice projections, the type that will cut arteries. And Caitlin says, wow, a greeting like that can give a girl an ego, you know. And that concludes this chapter of Suicide Squad. Now, I did this a little out of order, but following this is Justice League vs. Suicide Squad, where Killer Frost goes on another adventure and Batman deems her worthy of his new Justice League. And we'll be getting to that very soon. But we kind of had to explain how she even showed up on the Suicide Squad and how Boomerang came back, because everyone was asking that question. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to keep up to date in your favorite comic books. Like this video so I know that you want more Suicide Squad, and follow me on Twitter at Comicstorian, and I'll see you next time right here.